All right, this is Bob. We're back in the shop, and I've been cutting a little bit of cedar strips here, 18-foot strips, and I've got a whole lot of really clear cedar, and it's dimensional this time. It's 18 foot 3 inches, it's 7¼ inches wide, and it is 1 inch already. So it's really expensive wood. Up in Alaska, that equated to about $16.30 a linear foot. So didn't want to screw any of this up when I'm making the 1/4 inch strips for the canoe. So what I've got here is a 36-foot table, and I had to open the garage door a little bit at the end to accept it all. And what I do is I have a special jig here. Let's see if we can get in there a little bit. It's a special jig, and it's exactly close as I can measure anyway, 5/16 away from the blade in here. And then I have my dust collector. I know it looks kind of weird. I don't have an over-the-arm dust collector, but this works pretty darn good. And then of course I have the dust collector underneath. And what I do is I move the fence over and I can cut off 5/16 inch strips. And I felt when I'm working with such long lengths, it's probably better to do it like that, go over and then take it to my DeWalt planer, and then I can get it right down. And I'll show you when I'm done with these next batch of strips here that they are in fact 1/4 inch right on. So with that, we'll get busy and I'll run a few strips through, and then we'll show you planing them down to the final 1/4 inch. So what I'm doing is I'm putting these together exactly the way they came off the board. And the reason I'm doing that is because This canoe I'm not making, but I don't know if they're going to book match these or not. And this way, the grain will be perfect. That's why I'm using a clamp on them, and it's keeping them in exactly the same order that I took them off their original root board. We're back. It's another day, and we're going to. I have 4 strips here. I'm going to show you how I did those, and so we'll get right to it. There, remember, these are 5/16, so I'm going to take 2 passes, 1 on each side of these strips to get them down to the final size of 1/4, and then at the end I'll show you with my caliper that they are in fact 1/4 inch. All right, so these are the 4 strips that I just did, and we'll turn this on and see, well, are they? And yes, I don't know, can you see that? They are indeed 1/4 inch. So I think that's proof in the pudding right there, that it's better to do the long strips a little bit over and then use your finer, planer ability to get them down to the 1/4 inch. So that's it for that one. We've done some of the test strips, about half of them now, not test strips, but the cedar strips. And this is the last bunch, and I figured, well, we're in deep enough now, so I'll go ahead and do the bead and cove. So first off, we do the round part, which is the bead, and then the cove would be the convex part that the bead fits into. And we do the bead first because it gives us something then to put up against the fence, and it's more solid so that you got a good bite and you don't lose any thickness. So what I've done here on these strips here, these are just like I planed them, so they are 1/4 inch now, and you notice one side's not faced, the other side is faced, and it's a nominal size of, looks like this is, well, it's looking like it's 63, for all practical purposes, it's an inch, 63/64. So that's what it came out of the wood yard. So I'm going to try to keep that right there. So what I have here is these are called feather boards. This is my woodpecker router table, and I have a special cove, or a bead rather, bit in there. So when I feed this in, which is what I'm going to do next, and once I feed it in, I can't take it back out. So we're just going to have to go with it like that. So let's put our earplugs on, and we will cut one. So this is one bundle right here, and it's got the bead on it. And you can see they're all super uniform. This looks like it came out of a machine, and actually it did. But so the next step will be to flip them over, and then we'll put the concave cove that the bead fits into. And once you put them together in a canoe, you have a seamless kind of thing, just like that canoe up there. And that's bead and cove. And you get no staple marks, because when you put it together, you just use glue and tape. And it's a beautiful thing. Okay, now we're ready to put the cove on, and I've got the router table all set up. And it's the same procedure for setting the blade height or the bit height and the depth. It's just trial and by error. And what I use is little sacrificial pieces. And what I tend to do is I have a grease pencil that I just kind of color it. And then when it goes through, I start off and I go shallow, and I try to make the white uniform on both sides. And it's easier. It's a little tedious, but you just gotta go through it. So anyway, we're gonna start it up, and I'll do a couple. That piece right here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what the edge matching really looks like when we put a few of them together. So I don't know, I'll put 4 or 5 or 6 of them together, and you'll get the full effect probably. Now, if you look at the grain coming down, and if we line them up, because that's where the edge match would actually be. Now you can see where the pattern, it's exactly like it came off the board. And so you can imagine with the whole thing, all 16 strips, it's just another level. And you don't have to do that. I mean, if you're painting a canoe or whatever, I mean, it certainly doesn't give any advantage if you're doing something like that to edge match it, but you can if you want to. So this board has now, it's all completed. It's had the bead put on it, it's down to size, and it's got the cove. I just finished the cove on it. And if you zoom on in here, you can see it really looks good, the cove, but you can also see the little tail sticking up from them. They're just like paper thin, and so they're real delicate. So I was thinking, I was worried actually. I was like, well, how am I going to get these to the client that ordered them and keep that intact? And so I came up with what I did down here in the ends, and it's just cardboard, and it's just a hair wider than whatever the width of the boards are, and they typically are about 4 inches. So I use a clamp to keep the boards together right prior to where I'm putting it, and then I just tape it around, bending it over a little bit, and it doesn't mess with the boards. And as we move over here, these that have the cardboard on them have all been the cove run on them, and so you can see that there's space in between, so it protects it by keeping those cardboard pieces about 2 feet or so apart. There's enough space to where the cove doesn't get affected. And I'm hoping then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bundle them up depending on the size. Some of them were 17.5 feet, some of them were 18.5 feet. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna wrap them with a plastic wrap and get them all together. And that way they should be easier to carry and less flexible, and probably, well, I have to get a big van.